Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Somm TV podcast. My name is Jason Wise. I'm really honored to have you with us. You know, we all talk about these wine terms, and you've heard of biodynamics, you've heard of organic, you've heard of all of these different terms. But one that is not really discussed is vegan wine. And there are some detractors to that term. There are some people who really want to see it promoted more. It doesn't have the same governing body as a lot of these other things, but I wanted to have a conversation with a very, very, very accomplished winemaker up in Sonoma named Susie Selby about the concept of vegan wine, what it means, and what makes wine not vegan, and what that means from a deeper relationship with farming and what we do. This is a podcast that I wanted to do a little bit of geekery. So you listening who are tired of me doing movie podcasts every once in a while, wondering, is this a wine podcast? Here you go. It's a wine pod. For those of you who do not have Somm TV, make sure you go to sommtv.com and subscribe. It's $49.99 for an entire year. And trust me, it is the best $49.99 you can spend in the entire culinary world. And you can stream our shows on any major streaming device you have. Without further ado, vegan wine with winemaker Susie Selby. Susie, it is an honor to have you on the Somm TV podcast. How are you feeling? You're in the middle of harvest, right? Or
yes. You know, it's pretty close to the end. It's crazy. What is today? September 12th. I mean, it's the earliest harvest I have experienced. Definitely.
Yeah, I'm sure you're loving that. This will air later, obviously, but if you're listening to this, again, everybody that listens to this pod knows I love to torture winemakers by making them right in the middle of harvest talk to me about all sorts of stuff, because the energy is really great from it. And Susie, I apologize, but I kind of don't at the same time. You know?
No, I mean, it's actually the nice thing about doing something like this during harvest is this is the fun part of the job. You know, it's a lot of it's a little bit stressful, but it's why we all do it. And to talk to you in the center of all this is much different than talking to you in, let's say, January.
Right.
You don't have the same sense of what you're doing on a daily basis during crush.
If harvest is like I suspect, and I've been around for many of them in different parts of the world, it's kind of like you kind of teleport. You know, you do your job, and then by the end of the day, you're exhausted. You fall asleep. You maybe you're lucky enough to get a beer in you before that happens, and then
I do manage to do that.
Okay, good. Well, I love during harvest how it's beer that is the thing.
It is.
We're here to talk about vegan wine, but I do love. Let me ask you really fast, because I've done a podcast now with Hugh Davies. I just did one with over at Schramsberg, and he was talking quite a bit about beer. What's your beer you guys drink, all of you, when you're harvesting?
You know, my guys are partial to Modelo. So we have, so that's the beer we have for my cellar guys. You know, I tend to go down the Pliny road if I can.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's fun. It's exciting. There's so much adrenaline. I always forget until I'm actually in harvest. And I've been doing this a very long time, how exciting it is, you know, and I've been... Never a dull moment. A lot of adjustments. As you said, earliest harvest. Is this really the earliest harvest you've ever had? Well, it's not. It may not technically be the earliest date I've started harvesting, but it's the earliest I've seen this much fruit come in. Because again, we're having a heat wave. It was 117 in Healdsburg a couple of days ago. And so, you know, some of the vineyards are a little bit in decline, even though this is certain to be one of the best vintages ever. You know,
are you under contract to say that, or is that real?
I'm being yes. It's always the best vintage.
What do the French always give a lot of shit to the American winemakers in saying that every year they say it's the best one every time. Napa, Sonoma, everyone's like, oh, this is the best. Whereas in French, they're like, it was a shit year, but it would be great to, you know, like they don't have a problem, but I guess it's maybe they're not relying on selling the wine. It's
well,
I
always like it. I like it when the French say the only way we can make great wine is if we get one good rain every year. It's like, yeah, it's because they get a good rain every year.
Yeah, so, come walk a mile in my flip flops in Sonoma.
Yeah, exactly.
Is what you're saying. Well, all right. So we are here to talk about something that I know is misunderstood, and I know everybody's got a hot take about, and I know everybody thinks they know, or maybe they do. We've talked many times on this pod about different things. I mean, obviously some things are gimmicky, some things are not, biodynamics and clean wine and marketing stuff. But there is this, when you talk about different categories of wine, there is this thing called vegan. And it's a tough thing to place in wine because wine is a product made from a plant. And you make a vegan wine. In fact, I have it in front of me. It's 11 a.m. I'm going to open up one of your wines. I've had them many times. I had them with you the other night at dinner, and I love them. They're delicious. And I don't know that vegan has anything to do with that. And that's what we're going to get into. What
Perfect.
Vegan means. And I should start by asking, out of respect, are you a vegan? Do you eat meat?
I eat a plant-based diet. And right now, Jason, I would consider myself in vegan immersion. And I've really
immersion. I like this.
Vegan immersion. And it's, vegan it's not just a lifestyle choice. It's a statement about how you feel about the environment and animals and the future of our planet. So it's sort of an all-encompassing theory. And I think that even people who aren't strict vegans appreciate the philosophy behind it. And it's important. It's important to care about the world and what's happening.
Yeah, well, I think also too, like we have I should say a sound guy that's worked with us for a decade and is one of our best friends and a production person named Alex. He is a very strict vegan. I mean, as strict as it goes. And I think that it's not. Look, I don't. Everyone who has opinions about vegans or being vegan, I really don't care so much about that. If you're vegan and you want to do that, that's great. Meaning like what I want to try to get to is what does it mean in wine? I mean, as far as plant-based and all of these are they're such big buzzy things right now. I mean, plant-based it's a real thing. It's a real ethos, and it's very. I mean, as someone who directed a film called The Whole Animal about meat, I will also say that I think you don't have to eat meat. And the whole point of that film was you're eating too much and not the right quality and not the right care of the people who raise it and all of this other stuff. So I will say I come from a perspective that I made a film about meat. I eat meat. But I would also say that I guess what I'm asking you is how do you separate the marketing from the reality in the term vegan before we get to what that means in wine? How do you, I mean, is it a marketing term? Does it help sell? I mean, I'm asking stupid questions.
No, it's not. When Andrew and Steve and I started this together, should we say the name of the project? We should say the name. Oh, yes, absolutely. It's Bell's, BELSE.
Right.
And there's actually, there's actually a restaurant in Manhattan called Bell's that just opened, and it is the largest vegan property, I believe, in the world, and has fabulous cocktails, food, the whole thing. Very fun restaurant to attend. And Bell's is the name of the brand. And again, Wonderful. It's BELSE.
Good. We should definitely plug it. I will say the wine's fantastic. It really is. I'm literally drinking it right now at 11 a.m.
Well, good. Thank you.
All right. So back to the question. I mean, so how do you separate the vegan and plant-based stuff, which is, you see it very large on labels now. And I wonder if it comes from this altruistic thing you're talking about earlier about the environment, or if it comes from, hey, I'm trying to sell a product, and where that kind of starts and stops.
Well, we want the world to know a couple of things, and vegan can taste good. And that's the premise behind the restaurants that were started. And it's the premise behind the wine. Yes, it's vegan, but it's also a way for, first of all, anybody who is vegan knows it's vegan. And it's surprising how many, there are a lot of wines out there that are not vegan. And there are a lot of people who have no idea that all wines are not vegan. And so this one is very strictly vegan, and there are no animal products used at all. And it's not necessarily a common practice to use animal products in all wines, but this is a carefully thought out project, for a lot of different reasons. And part of it is just the fact that it can be absolutely fantastic and be a vegan wine.
How is wine not vegan? Obviously, I know some of these answers, but what makes
just
a wine
go down to the basics on this?
Like, what makes a wine not vegan? And
well, the primary culprit in making a wine not vegan are animal-based fining agents. And what fining does to a wine is it prevents, I know you know this, but it does prevent the haziness you can get from sediment, from proteins that are in the wine. And it cleans up the wine, but it also can be used to remove bitterness in a wine or astringency. And typically, in the past, the big one for a very long time was oxblood, and either dried
what? Now this I didn't know.
Oh yeah,
there's oxblood in wine.
Well, there has been. It was banned in 1997 because of mad cow disease, and so
wow.
but that was the primary use for fining.
So this would be post fermentation. They're adding blood, and so when you use a product like, I know that obviously people who listen to this are in the wine business, so they know egg whites and fish bladders and all sorts of these things are thrown around and used. How much of that is actually left in a wine by the time it gets in a bottle? And I guess I'm speaking about chemistry here, but of course the use of it is a big important thing. And I'm not trying to take away from that, but
oh no, I understand.
How much of that is actually left?
Well, it's theoretically it's settled into the bottom of a tank, and there can be arguments that even if somebody does use an animal-based fining agent, then it may not necessarily be in the wine, certainly not to any huge extent, but you're still using an animal-based product to make that wine.
Right.
And it's there. And the whole concept behind vegan is respecting animals and not supporting anything that exploits animals in some way. And just by using egg whites or using now it's not oxblood, but the gelatin or bone marrow, then you're utilizing animals and you're exploiting them. And really, in a pure vegan environment, it doesn't matter what the animal is; it's still not properly respecting animals in the environment, and therefore veganism.
Right. No, that makes sense. I think people who do eat meat really have a hard time wrapping their mind around that's it, full stop. You don't want to cause harm. You don't want to exploit. And I think it's when you start talking to someone who is a vegan, you say, yeah, but what if? Yeah, but what if? And you keep going in these circular things. But the truth is there's a full stop at if it exploits animals or hurts them or harms them or anything, uses them for the function, then that's it. It's out. And I think that's important, to define, at least for me, to make that distinction that it is a completely, that's the thing. So in talking about how you make a wine, you obviously do not use any of those things. So aside from that, how else, what makes it vegan then? And then we'll talk about the complicated, I hope, political certification.
Oh, well, quite simply, it's vegan, just the simplest form, because no animal products were used. For fining, I use bentonite, which is just earth, basically. And
is it clay, kind of? Is that what what it sort of is? Clay?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, it's basically just clay. And so there are ways, but I've always done that. And I've been making wine for over 20 years. And I just don't see that animal products can necessarily enhance a wine. There's no reason for my personal winemaking style to do that. And so, I've always made vegan wines, and there are a lot of winemakers who make vegan wines. I'm not saying it's unique, but yes, we are, because we are pro-vegan and we're pro-environment. We certainly want that on the label and want people to know that. And we want it to taste good.
Are a lot of winemakers, if I go to a wine shop or even a grocery store or something, what are the chances the wine I'm having, whether it's certified or it's on the label or not, is actually vegan? What are the odds? So if I'm somebody who wants to do plant-based everything, and it's not on there. Is there sort of like it's 50%, 10%? I know some regions are different than others.
I would guess let's just use California as an example. It's probably a little bit higher. I mean, it could be as high as 70% or,
Okay.
I don't really know. And, quite honestly, Jason, I was surprised at how much people were using, especially gelatin for wines prior to getting involved with this project, simply because I'm a minimalist winemaker and I haven't done it, but it's very prevalent. It's more prevalent than I thought it was when I started this project.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, obviously we've filmed all over. I will never forget being in Bodegas Muga in Rioja and watching them crack what seriously, I know I speak in hyperbole a lot, but might have been 40,000 eggs. I mean, they were just, I've never seen it was pallets of eggs that they were just cracking.
Just standing there by hand.
It was all by hand. Yeah. They literally
I guess that's the only way to crack an egg.
I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there's some way to automate that, but I don't. If there is, northeast Spain is probably not going to do that. But but I just remember that, and that was my first exposure to literally seeing animal products in wine. I just sort of took for granted. Look, it's a farmed thing. It's a plant. Why the hell would there be anything else in there? It's a conversation I have all the time. And a lot of people ask, what's in your wine? What's in it? And it's interesting this is almost not what's in it. It's what was used to make it too, which is a really fascinating thing because like you're saying, you wouldn't have to put ox blood on the ingredients. It may not be there, but it was used in it. And that's a fascinating concept, to me, that you don't see on an ingredient label. You don't see what products were used to make this as a part of it. And that's fascinating to me. Really, honestly, what is gelatin a fining agent too? So it's pretty much the fining stuff is the culprit.
It's the fining. Okay. But again, it's, fining, again, it pulls out proteins, but it really can impact, they're trying to impact the, bitterness or flavor. And with our approach to winemaking, it's make it in the cellar, age it as long as you need to. There are other ways to do that without resorting to cracking 40,000 eggs.
Yeah, right. It may not have been. It may have been 30,000. Who knows? So, if I were to taste something that's using clay for fining, or using unfined, or how much of the taste is actually affected? I mean, you've mentioned bitterness, but what is the real scale of this?
Well, with bentonite fining, with the vegan wine, it's definitely a pure expression of the grape itself. So we're taking the fruit and we're just enhancing it. We're doing what needs to be done to clean it up so that people aren't getting, sediment in their wine or things like that. But we're not doing anything to alter the fruit that was brought from the vineyard to the cellar. So it's just a very bright, simple expression of wine. And that's one of the things I really, like about this vegan wine.
Can I ask the devil's advocate question that I know there's somebody listening to this that's going, ask about MOG, material other than grapes. What if a lizard falls in? What if a fly falls in? What if a bug gets fermented, which is inevitably very tough not to have happen? This is a stupid devil's advocate question. What do you do about that? I mean, how do you deal with the fact that you didn't use it, but an animal might end up in wine because it's an agricultural product? This is a stupid question. I just know somebody listening.
No. It's pretty rare for animals to actually end up.
You don't have like a raccoon in your fermenter or something? Okay,
no,
good. It's solid.
No, we do not. In fact, I really don't see animals or even
I have seen a lizard on the sorting tank one time, but it was alive and well, and it was plucked off and ran away. I've seen that before.
Yes, but it's more rare than it may seem since it is an agricultural product. So no, we haven't seen raccoons or, I've also heard of bats in an open air situation when they hit the carbon dioxide falling into tanks. But again, I'm in a production facility that is animal free as well.
Right.
So,
okay. Got it. No, that's that's good. It's that one question that people are like, yeah, but but there's got to be 1 part per million spider in this as well, and I'm like, no, well, okay. So if you want to call a wine vegan, what do you have to do? Do you have to go through a certification? Do you have to? Most of this I find to be insanely bureaucratic and frankly very frustrating. So I wonder if the vegan label is the same.
Right now, there is not a required certification for vegan on a label. We're in the process of getting certified, and there are a couple of different certifications, but it's not like for instance, organic is an actual certification for the vineyards, but there is not one to date. However, there is a website called Barnivore that lists who's vegan and who's not. And, honestly, it's you have to hope for the integrity of the winemaker and the organization that if they're saying it's vegan, it is vegan. But
it's an honor code type of a situation. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. When they do get this together and they say, here are the regulations and here's, somebody who has to come out and sort of see some of the process or whatever that is that good or bad for vegan wine? Meaning to add a step of cost and some bureaucracy, is that going to be good for the movement or negative?
I really don't see how, other than the expense, I don't really see how it could be negative. But I guess if people are
they might see what you're doing with bats, and that's the concern for
the
you,
bats.
Probably. Yeah, but other than that,
exactly.
No, I'm just kidding.
I don't see it. Again, I don't see that it would have any negative impact other than, you're right, it does add an extra step, and there's a regulation. It's almost like, even with like kosher wines, for instance, that's a strict process. And again, a lot of that, because a rabbi has to be involved, you have to find a person who's certified to do that. That could possibly happen, but right now it is definitely on an honor system. And on our label, you can't say vegan; it's vegan friendly, and so that's the current rule with TTB, the Tax and Trade Bureau.
Vegan friendly. What did you say? Your plant based. What did you call your term? Immersion?
I said I have Yes, I have vegan immersion right now.
Great, I like that. So vegan friendly and vegan immersion. These are
vegan immersion. Well, that's my own term. It's not an official term. I just yes. No, I'm just fascinated. Well, and vegan food is getting better with each passing day.
Well, the argument that there is not good vegan food has been stupid since the beginning. I mean,
I agree.
3/4 of India eats some of the greatest food. I mean, Americans are exposed to about 1% of Indian cuisine, from the country of India, which has over 1 billion people, I think, at this point. And much of that country outside of the Punjab and Kerala and the very south and things like that is vegan. I mean, they don't, they eat vegan completely, and it's not a movement. It's Hindu, and it's just what the food is. And guess what? They've had thousands of years to perfect it, and it's freaking delicious. I mean, I could live on Indian food. Yeah, so like that argument, like if you just start with that, and then you go, okay, you could eat vegan in Italy. You could eat vegan in Greece. You could eat, most of the cultures that have great produce and things already have things that they make that are olive oil based and plant-based, and you don't have to make it. It's not a thing. I mean, it's like, anyways, I didn't mean to jump in and tell you that. I just think it's like, whenever I hear people say, oh, it's a vegan restaurant, and there's this negative connotation to it, it surprises me, because maybe I've traveled more than most people, but I just don't.
Oh no. Well,
it's just food. It's food, and is it good or not? I don't have to have beef in my food for it to be food. It's already food.
Exactly. Well, and to your point, I think that any food can be enhanced. You're right. Whether or not it's plant-based, but with the plant-based food, especially, I'll brag about the Bell's and Little Pine properties. The food is absolutely fantastic.
Little Pine is a restaurant, I should say, that's in
Los
It's in the
Angeles.
Silver Lake area of Los Angeles, and it is wonderful. It's great.
Well, it's
I've eaten there
outstanding.
many times. I
The
somehow never have to pay, which is wonderful. I've
yeah,
but
does it make the food taste better?
To be honest with you, I think when somebody says, come and taste this stuff, and you sort of have the pressure and you're not paying, in some ways it puts it more pressure on the food. And honestly, like I would have no problem with that restaurant, whether it was told I was vegan or not, meaning the food's good. It's great. The flatbreads are some of the best in LA. And I mean that. And like, the pasta's great. It's good. I don't know what else to say about it. It's like,
no, it is absolutely outstanding.
yeah.
And
that's
like
stop.
the wine, I mean, I'll compare it to the wine here in that the chef successfully incorporates texture and spice and ends up with something fantastic. There's always texture in those dishes. And with the wine, I care about texture. Like it needs to be rich on the palate. And one of the things that I've really was conscientious about with both the white blend and the red blend is that they were able to pair nicely with a large variety of spice profiles. And I think that's important with a plant-based diet in particular, because that's where that's where the excitement comes in, is getting the spices and the nuances. And these wines are well, you're enjoying your wine right now, and if you have it with lunch a little bit later.
Well, I certainly I've had a stressful week, and honestly, this wine is treating me very well at the moment.
But it's nice by itself. It's rich. So Jason is drinking the red blend right now.
I am, yes.
And it's a blend of, it's 75% Zinfandel and 25% Petit Syrah. And I think that it's fabulous as an aperitif, or it's even better with food. And it's not a complicated wine, but it's still rich. And the most important thing with the red wines is that they really have a broad pairing opportunities with different cuisines.
I think also, as I said, I as a winemaker, I don't know how you feel about this, but you chill this down. I'm not talking cold as a white wine, but sort of in between. And that's what I did. And it's great. It honestly
especially
is
when it's 109 or whatever it's been. But no, I like it. I like reds slightly chilled, especially this red blend. I agree with that 100%.
Well, it's also criminally underpriced. So if you can find this Bell's, you should buy it. It is literally criminally underpriced. But so let me ask you, when you put vegan friendly on the wine label, for people who, is there a perception, like a learning curve people have to understand that really, if you're not vegan, then this is just wine to you? Do you have to educate? Like, people think it's going to be something different. Is it harmful the opposite direction at all?
It could be. We're still in a learning curve on that, because it's a newer brand, and the lesson I guess the point that we're making is it can be vegan and it can taste great. It's not, there can be a distorted perception of it, but I honestly think it's one of the best value wines around. I mean, it's fantastic.
Anytime you can, I don't know what this is going to retail at, but I had a conversation with you and it's very low. Anybody listening to this podcast, if you were to go to a place that sells wine, you would pick this bottle up for the price. It's very inexpensive. I don't even know if you can talk prices or what, but it's a pretty affordable.
Oh, it is. It's in the $20 range. It's in a very affordable price point.
And for a California wine that is made from where these grapes are from, it's kind of ridiculous, frankly, and very tough to do. So I applaud you for that, vegan or not.
Well, we care about being a value brand for the main blends, but as you know, we also make a Pinot Noir and a Cabernet Sauvignon. So we do have some higher end wines, and these wines, by the way, are available. We do have a website called Bell's, BELSE. So they are available, but you had the Cabernet. It's really fantastic. Napa Valley, of course.
I think I had about five glasses of the Cabernet. I'm pretty sure that I got home and my wife was watching a show and she was like, "Were you just at a sporting event? You seem like you've had some drinks." And I was like, "No." Yeah, no, it was great. It was very good. And honestly, I think it's weird to have to say, like, this is the weird thing about these conversations. I talk to people that are diehard followers of biodynamics and really like, any of these things that have a label. And I don't mean they don't even deserve to be in the same categories, but they end up getting put on the same shelf here or in the same area. Here's kosher wine, here's vegan wine, here's biodynamic stuff, here's X, here's Y. Because I think store shelves don't know how to do this when in fact, guess what? It's wine,
Right.
It's wine.
Great. It's great wine that happens to be vegan as opposed to vegan wine.
And that's why I wanted to have you on the pod, was to just talk through what the hell that means. And you've done a great job of it. I think the last question is, can and should all wine be vegan? Is there still a place for wine that's not? And I know somebody who makes wine that is vegan would probably say it shouldn't, it should all be vegan. But from a cultural standpoint, what do you say to places like Rioja or, the south of Spain or some place where they've always used something to do something, and then that culture could be lost?
It's very difficult to argue with traditionalism. I understand that. But again, if there's a hardcore respect for animals in the environment, an argument could possibly be made that perhaps they could look at alternatives to the winemaking. And I don't know if that would completely change the style. I would venture to guess that it would not, but
I highly doubt it would change anything, frankly.
There are a lot of places, especially old world wines, where they are not going to change the process. It's getting handed down culturally.
Yeah, well, there's an element of, I promise, I'm not a winemaker, but from my perspective, that egg whites are probably not making Bodegas Muga taste the way Bodegas Muga tastes. I highly doubt that.
Exactly. Right.
But the question is whether or not whatever replaces it would change the taste. Maybe. I don't know. Rioja is also a very famous place for finding the hell out of their wines. I mean, their wines are...
Well, they're big. They're astringent. I mean, without fining. But there are alternatives to that without using animal products. I mean, there's no question. This
is great. I usually try to end these pods asking, it's kind of a little bit of insider trading. Any amazing wine that you've had recently? I know you're in the middle of harvest, so hopefully, several Pliny the Elders, but is there any wine you've had recently that blew you away, knocked your socks off, and you thought, this is something I want to tell people about?
Actually, the most memorable wine I had recently was a Gaia Barbaresco.
Oh, nice.
I know.
Nice grocery store wine. That's good.
Yeah. Fortunately, I have friends with some pretty fabulous cellars, so I have access to some great things. And I also have friends who are patient enough to wait before they open these wines, so it's fun. One thing I want to mention really quickly, Jason, is the label for the Bell's product.
Yeah, which will be the cover of this episode. We'll make sure people can see that.
It was created by Shepard Fairey. Are you familiar with him?
I am. He did the very famous Obama picture. And
yes, the Hope.
Have you ever seen a documentary called Exit Through the Gift Shop about Banksy?
I have not.
It is one of look, I speak in hyperbole, but I believe it is one of the better documentaries made in the last 25 years, and a seminal documentary. Whether or not it's all a documentary or not is up for debate, and we can all talk about that later, but he's great in it, and he's a very important character.
And the love and respect. He is a gentleman with love and respect.
The Obama Hope, that really famous, everybody listening knows the Obama that has hope, and it's the three colors, and it's really, he did that. I mean, amongst many other things, famous street artist. And he's, I was lucky enough to meet him the other night when we had dinner at Little Pine. So anyways, go on. I'm sorry. The label is done by him.
No. I was just pointing out the label. It's it's hands holding the world in a lotus flower. Again, it's just a symbol of sort of the brand and what we care about. And I think that when buying a wine, you're buying the story and the background of the people who are creating it. And that's one of the things that we are proud of, is that we care about the world, we care about the future, we care about the environment. And yes, it's vegan, but yes, it also tastes fantastic. and they're good buys. So, and I would say the same for the Pinot and the Cabernet. It's the same concept. So whether you're vegan or not, but you have the love and respect, then it's a great wine to buy. You're buying it for all the right reasons.
Very well said, Susie. And I wish you sanity over the course of the next little bit here while you finish bringing in fruit.
Thank you.
And hopefully it cools down up in Sonoma.
Oh, it will. It will. And it's going to be a fantastic harvest.
Love it. It's always better than the last.
Yes, always.
Thank you for being on. Everybody, don't forget to go to bells.com, BELSE.com, right? Is that correct?
Yes, BELSE, correct. Bell's Wine.
And you can pick up some wine that I'm sure will not be this inexpensive for that long. So enjoy. Correct. Thanks for being on, Susie. I appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. I think every single one of these things is worth talking about. And when you have somebody who's as passionate and knowledgeable as Susie is, it's downright convincing that it's an important wine movement. So if you are a vegan or you're thinking about it or you just want to be curious, go to bellswine.com and check them out. All right, everybody, please be safe. If you love this podcast, go and review it. Give us 5 stars. Give us a nice review. It really matters to us if you're listening. And go to somtv.com and subscribe. In the meantime, have a great weekend. Be safe. Bye-bye.